Well, thank you, Suzanne, for that kind introduction. And also congratulations on your being the first senior executive vice president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in its 104-year history. I think we ought to have a little applause for Suzanne. It's my pleasure to be here, and I thank you for inviting me. To the governors in the room, welcome again to Washington, D.C. We've been sort of meeting each other, coming and going all weekend. Welcome also to all of the foreign investors and representatives of foreign governments in attendance. For those of you who work for foreign companies that have invested in the U.S., I thank you. Your commitment to the U.S. market has been instrumental in reinvigorating it. You have helped create millions of jobs for people in every state in the Union. At the U.S. Department of Commerce, at the White House, and at every federal agency, we are focused on making the United States the best place in the world to invest and to run a business. We're strengthening the American industrial base, enhancing our system of innovation, and revitalizing the reality of the American dream. We're doing this in partnership with industry, academia, labor, our foreign business partners, and most importantly, in collaboration with the states and the governors. And now more than ever, America is open for business. For those companies that are producing products in the U.S., we're diligently working at creating a level playing field and a system of reciprocal trade that will enable you to sell more products everywhere in the world. Our efforts on trade and so many other facets of economic policy are beginning to pay off. After more than a decade of stagnation, the U.S. economy has entered a virtuous cycle of economic growth. U.S. manufacturing employment has increased by almost 500,000 jobs since President Trump was elected, the most job growth in this essential sector of the U.S. economy in more than 2 decades. Optimism among U.S. manufacturers, as measured by the National Association of Manufacturers, has never been higher, reaching a record 92.4% in 2018. U.S. economy is growing at a healthy clip of more than 3%, a rate that no one predicted a few years ago. New shipments of durable goods increased by an impressive 7.3% in 2018, and new orders were up by 8.1%. That bodes well for 2019. Our corporate tax rate is now globally competitive. And most importantly, we initiated 176 federal deregulatory actions in 2018, with 3 times the savings to American business as was achieved in 2017. We recently created a high-powered American Workforce Policy Advisory Board to help solve the #1 issue confronting our fast-growing private sector. That's the shortage of highly skilled workers. One that's a happy problem, but nonetheless a problem that we must deal with. I co-chair this board with Ivanka Trump, and we have 2 governors, Eric Holcomb of Indiana and Kim Reynolds of Iowa, on the board, along with some of the nation's most important CEOs like Tim Cook of Apple and Doug McMillon of Walmart. There are also leaders from educational organizations, labor unions, and trade associations, including the Chamber's own Tom Donahue. The advisory board will provide input as we implement a first ever comprehensive national workforce strategy. And we're doing so much more to make the United States the premier destination for investment. We've renegotiated NAFTA, replacing it with the USMCA, with the intention of bringing production and jobs back to the United States. Our negotiations with China have already addressed many of the outstanding issues we face with them. So President Trump is now willing to extend for a bit the deadline on tariffs to see whether we can achieve an all-encompassing and enforceable agreement in an ultimate session at Mar-a-Lago. If not, we will go forward with the original plan to raise tariffs on $200 billion of imports from 10% to 25%. And meanwhile, the 25% on $50 billion of Chinese imports will remain in place. At the Commerce Department, our assets located in 100 U.S. cities and 75 foreign nations further encourage foreign direct investment into the United States. Our U.S. Export Assistance Centers located throughout the country have been directed to identify and eliminate foreign barriers to exports for our local producers. These export assistance centers also have been instructed to work on attracting foreign direct investment and to champion domestic business expansions. The Select USA Investment Summit is this country's largest gathering of state economic development offices. Last year, we welcomed more than 1,000 international investors from 66 countries and hosted economic development office representatives from 51 states and territories. A record 10 governors participated themselves in last year's investment summit, and we expect to double that participation this year. State economic development organizations held more than 2,700 individual meetings with foreign companies at the summit to discuss investment opportunities. To quote Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant regarding his participation at the investment summit, quote, "I am able to accomplish more in 3 days than I can in multiple trips overseas, and I can do it without jet lag." And I might add, he was very happy about not having the jet lag. For the state delegations here today, if you're serious about FDI into your state, this is the one event you need to attend each year. Many states sponsor individual FDI events with foreign delegations, either directly preceding or succeeding the Select USA Summit. This has proven very effective, and if you wish to schedule one, we'll get the word out to the participants in advance of the summit. These efforts are generating great opportunities for local economies. Last year, Select USA worked with 91 global market clients, and those announced 449 greenfield investment projects in 49 U.S. states and territories. These projects valued at $32 billion and supported 55,700 jobs. As the host of the two most recent Select USA summits, I have to work directly with more than a dozen governors, connecting them with CEOs of foreign companies, both large and small, interested in expanding their footprints in the United States. At last year's Select USA Summit, Barbara Humpton, the CEO of Siemens USA, told me that the U.S. has, I quote, all the right conditions to invest here. She noted that the U.S. has abundant natural resources, especially hydrocarbons, the rule of law that protects her company's most important intellectual assets, the world's most skilled and educated workforce, and an entrepreneurial spirit that she said is really driving change. She told the audience of potential foreign investors that if you come to the U.S., you'll find an innovation engine that is unrivaled by any other. She added, "We're looking to invest even more here and use this as an engine in order to drive our global growth." She invited the attendees to come and join Siemens in those efforts. The U.S. is already home to the greatest amount of foreign direct investment in the world, more than $4 trillion in cumulative FDI stock. And of that, 277 billion came in 2017 alone. And last year, U.S. topped the A.T. Kearney FDI Confidence Index for the 6th year in a row. And there are other avenues for private investment in public projects. At the infrastructure breakout session with governors this morning at the White House, there was some confusion about the potential role of public-private partnerships. So I'll try to clear that up now for the governors who are here. My view is that equity capital is inherently more costly than treasury or tax-exempt debt financing, but it's also willing to undertake more risk. Therefore, I divide infrastructure projects into 3 buckets. The first consists of those projects with a well-defined and predictable revenue stream. Those have no need for equity from the private sector. At the opposite end of the spectrum are those with no real revenue stream, but that are necessary for public policy reasons. Those must be funded 100% from otherwise available government funding. Third category are those projects with potential revenue streams that may be somewhat unpredictable. These might well need equity as a cushion so that debt financing would become available. So private capital could be the solution for these needs because equity capital has greater risk tolerance if there's also the prospect of higher returns. In any event, we believe that both infrastructure and business in general and real estate development will generate more than $100 billion of new private investment in some 8,000 distressed communities, because of these new opportunity zones. Those of you who have foreign companies already operating here might consider availing yourselves of them, because the opportunity zone features are available both to corporate, to flow-through entities, as well as to individuals wanting to defer capital gains. Finally, let me mention that in the near term, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement will be up for a vote in Congress, hopefully this spring. Its passage will deliver significant economic benefits to all businesses in all the states, from farmers to high-tech and digital commerce innovators, and to local producers of thousands of different products and services. USMCA is a win-win-win for Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. It will generate a new era of North American investment, and we will be doing everything in our power to make sure it is approved by the U.S. Congress. So thank you again for everyone's commitment to the U.S. market, to American workers, and to a truly dynamic American culture that, with your involvement and your investment, continuously will reinvent itself. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.